Hello and welcome to another episode of The Standings. I'm Daniel and I'm of course joined by Cameron and Morgan today. This is our first Friday show. So how are we feeling heading into this twice a week now?
I'm so excited that we're here twice a week, but my excitement was brought down a little bit this week by the news of good old Damian Lillard and the Milwaukee Bucks right there.
How about you?
For me, at least, it's awesome. If baseball's back, I'll have more to talk about.
Sounds good. I feel the same exact way here. That's why I proposed the idea. And if we can manage to do it, we'll be all good. We're going to move into our first topic, that being the men's March Madness bracket and the Thursday games that have just happened. So of the games we've seen, what was the most impactful that you saw?
The most impactful game for me here, I was about to go to bed. I was fully set that Arkansas and Texas Tech was done. Overtime wasn't even a thought in my head. I was like, it's midnight. I'm falling asleep. And then goes into overtime. That was so impactful because I was like, Arkansas is winning, my bracket is busted, and Texas Tech is done. And then Texas Tech, what happened? You just came out of nowhere and now you're boosting it back up. It's insane. And in the West, we've seen a lot of upsets over there, and that's kind of where a lot of people's brackets are getting busted with the upsets in the West. But for Texas Tech, you need to make threes. You need to be confident. You are playing Florida. If you are going like this against Arkansas, Florida is going to annihilate you. You need to really get your head in this game because this is so important. You have made it this far, and to have that sort of slip up right there, right before you're about to face Florida, you really need to get better. And for Arkansas, Janelle Davis he made 30 points. He played 39 minutes. You can't let that happen. He was untouchable on the court. Nobody was making points like he was. And this is just so impactful for Texas Tech's future against Florida. And I think you could see it now that they're just not going to be at the same caliber going into this.
I think that, honestly, in that game, Kentucky fans have dealt with John Calipari for years, with him not calling timeouts at the end of a game. And that's what ended up losing them that game, is him not calling that timeout and then letting it play. He thought that he should let it play because that's what he goes by every time. Kentucky fans have seen this, they've dealt with this, and they are probably thankful they're not dealing with it anymore as they're in the Sweet 16. But there's no seed now remaining. With Arkansas losing. That's a Cinderella story.
Yes.
Which is the interesting part because we haven't seen this a lot in March Madness, especially leading up to the Elite Eight. There's at least one team that gets in that is the story of the tournament.
And there's really nothing going on here right now. Like, it's all the 1 seed, the 2 seed. Like, Arkansas, they were the 10th seed. And now there's no double-digit seeds going up in here. It's insane.
If there's going to be a year for a perfect bracket, this would have been the year. The one in like a trillion chance to have a perfect bracket, this would have been the year, and nobody did it.
Yep.
I think that's what confuses a lot of people is this year all the good teams are winning, all the high-seeded teams are winning, and that's a lot of credit to the committee that chose these teams. Is they chose the right teams, and it ends up being like that. My game is Duke-Arizona, and it's Duke-Arizona because of what I described. Duke is the best team in the country right now. Cooper Flagg comes into that game, and he leads in points, rebounds, and assists. He's the leader of that team. He is NBA caliber, but another guy I want to talk about is Con Knipple, who is a lethal shooter on that team. And he can just take the game away from you right then and there when he's shooting that three. Caleb Love came into the game, and he scored 28 points when he was at UNC, and they played Duke and got that win. But this time, Caleb Love comes in, and he actually has a great game. He has 35 points. But because he doesn't have the supporting cast that he initially had when he was at UNC, they don't win that game.
I think the most important part about that Duke game was right before halftime, Flagg's buzzer beater, that three-pointer that put him up 6 points at the half instead of 3. That was really important because I was nervous watching it. I was like, I have Duke going far, so they really need to step it up here. It's getting a little nerve-wracking for them, but they got there in the second half.
And you could talk about Duke going against Bama now. So they both advanced. They're going to play each other. And with Bama, they just lit up BYU. And I think you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
I was going to talk about that a little bit. How they had the most three-pointers in NCAA bracket history. Duke is simply not going to be able to keep up with that offense.
If they make the shots. And that's what March Madness is all about. It's about if you're that streaky team that can make that shot. And we previewed the tournament, and we had this matchup coming to fruition eventually. Yes. We all said, if Duke and Bama play, it's going to be a competitive game. So Alabama lighting up BYU, it's a little wake-up call for Duke of you don't have the easiest path. So now you have to play this Bama team who is lights out shooting. I mean, Holloway comes off the bench, scores 23. You have Mark Sears who scored 34. It's a great team that they're going to have to face, and a team that is experienced.
And a team that's getting hot is probably the most important thing to have. When they're getting hot right as soon as the tournament starts, that momentum keeps going on right into the finals.
When you're looking at Alabama, they're getting better and better and better with each game. And Duke here, they're kind of staying the same. They have been scoring better than Alabama if you're looking back in the previous games, but it's all up to every single game. And Alabama, when they're constantly getting better and Duke is starting to lower the margin there between points, it's getting a little bit frustrating. So Duke really needs to bring it against Alabama coming up.
It's going to be a great game to watch. And let's talk about some other great games that are going to be good to watch. Let's preview the games. In the men's and women's bracket now, we're going to move on and talk about what games are you looking forward to the most?
So the one I really am truly looking forward to the most is the Duke-Alabama game because I don't know what's going to happen there. Previously, I did predict Duke, but now I'm getting a little nervous. I think Alabama really has a chance to push over the ledge here because they are making history. They just keep going. And if you look through the stats against that BYU game, they're like top 10 things that Alabama did this game that no other team has ever done. It's insane.
I think that's going to be everybody's answer. It should be everybody's answer. That is borderline the two best teams in the country right now going up once against each other without even being the finals.
I'm looking at a game tonight. I'm talking about Michigan and Auburn. Mm-hmm. Michigan-Auburn is a great matchup, and it's a matchup that I had going into this tournament where Auburn actually loses this game. So Michigan, who's the Big Ten tournament winner, they go against Auburn, who had a disappointing end of the season. And yes, they played well in the tournament so far, but they've kept those games close, and Michigan has been outstanding shooting-wise. So coming into this game, I do have Michigan as the winner of that game. And another game I want to look at is Purdue and Houston. Purdue and Houston is another interesting one because we don't know a lot about Houston. It's another unknown team that going into the tournament, unlike Auburn, where they're in a proven SEC conference, Houston is not very proven in their conference, and all we can see is that they've been making shots and their offense is electric, but look at the teams that they're playing. Now they get to go against a Purdue team that is experienced, and in that conference, for the tournament, the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds are in there. So whoever they play next is going to be even better. Whether it's Tennessee or whether it's Kentucky, whoever they play is going to be a test to what team they really are.
And it's so interesting to see in the men's side. I want to take a look at the women's side here. So USC and Kansas State, that is going to be a good, interesting game right there because USC blew out Mississippi State 96-59. But when we're looking at Kansas State, they beat Kentucky by 1 point last game. But Juju's injured. That is USC's anchor right there. So now we're going to be interested to see what USC does without Juju, and it's going to be very hard and very interesting there.
Yeah, when you lose a WNBA talent like that, it is just going to completely disrupt your whole journey forward. And with that, USC might lose the next week. It's one of those things where that's so impactful, and it's just going to probably destroy their whole season.
And Juju being out of the tournament is the reason why I have UConn and Oklahoma as the game you should be watching. Because now Paige Beckers is the face of the NCAA tournament on the women's side. She is amazing. I saw her in person. She just has such a pure shot, and she is the WNBA talent that the WNBA has been waiting for. They want to advertise her. They want to get her out there. She's in this tournament now, and she has something to prove. Being injured in her previous years, UConn has something to prove. Their coach is outstanding. They've had outstanding years with him in the past, and they need to keep proving it because we have emerging teams like a Tennessee and Texas matchup that I'll talk about. In their last matchup, it came down to the wire with Texas having a go-ahead field goal. And Tennessee being a 5 seed might be underwhelming, but they've taken care of business so far in the games that they've played. So Tennessee and Texas is the game that you want to be watching the most, but keep your eyes on UConn because Paige Beckers is going to be a name that will become a household name once she gets in the WNBA.
I feel like Paige is already moving up there in a household name. I feel like many people could start naming her off now. So she's up there. She's going to be names like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. Paige's name is going to be up there 100%.
I think she was really Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark even was. they've been a winning team in the past. So we know they are capable of winning this tournament. They need to keep that up now, and they need to prove, and with an outstanding win over Oklahoma, they could scare some other teams in this tournament.
Yes, I agree.
Let's head to the first commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, it's Sam Sunny, a co-anchor of Royal Studios. I'm currently behind the scenes of the show you're watching, The Standings. Check me out next week on the latest episode of Scranton Scope, where I'll tell you what's going on in the Scranton community and how you can get involved. We cover events like sports, movies, music, and more. Scope has everything that you're looking for. See you there. Now back to The Standings.
Welcome back from the commercial break. We're going to move into some NFL draft talk, and we're going to talk about where will the two quarterbacks, Sanders and Ward, end up going? Where do we think?
Okay, so what I love about the NFL is that they're always in the news cycle. It's not even like season time, and we're already talking draft, and I think that's really exciting. So Sanders and Ward here are two quarterbacks. We see them, they are practicing, they're both practicing with the Titans. Titans, first pick, really interested in both of these guys here. They need a quarterback. They're going to pick one of these two. And I suspect that the Titans will go with Ward. But when we're talking Sanders over here, he's practicing with the Titans and the Browns. And obviously, these two men will go fast. These two men are on the board. They're going quick. And I suspect that he is going with the Browns.
For this, Cam Ward is a lock for the number 1 overall pick. Their
Yes.
GM is, you see smiling, hugging him, like, during his workout. Like, obviously, Titans are going with that. But I don't think Shedeur goes to the Browns. I think the Browns take Abdul Carter to pair him up with Myles Garrett and make a lethal pass rush duo. And then Shedeur Sanders is a little bit of a limbo right now, where I still have him as a second, third-round pick, but really re-quarterback class. I think Shedeur could either slip down to, like, 6 where the Raiders are.
That's a really interesting take. I love Abdul Carter to the Browns and what that defensive line would look like. I mean, that would be so scary. But my take through this is, and it's a very interesting take, is the Titans might be sneaky to not take a quarterback with that first overall pick and maybe take Abdul Carter. I've seen Cam Ward and all that he's done with the Titans so far, but I'm not so sure if the Titans want to do that. They were at first shopping the pick, and then all of a sudden they're not, and they're content with where they are. All of a sudden they were shopping Will Levis, and now they're probably not anymore. I guess they're content with a quarterback for one more year. Well, if they're content with a quarterback for one more year, you take Abdul Carter, and then it leaves us with Cam Ward most likely goes to the Browns, because the Browns would be very happy to take a quarterback that's young and has an extreme upside that he does. But then we talk about Shedeur. Shedeur could drop to the Raiders at 6. I have the Raiders at 6 taking Shedeur. I don't have any other teams really looking for a quarterback. And when we look at this draft list right here, the Giants are at 3. Yes. So it's interesting. Do they want a quarterback? Do they not? But they had Jameis, and like we talked about last week, they had Jameis, and I said, do not go and get Russ. Do not go and get Russell Wilson. Don't make the quarterback room really crowded. So now it's Tommy DeVito, it's Jameis Winston, and Russell Wilson. So I really don't think the Giants want a quarterback, and that leaves the Raiders at 6, who have Geno Smith, and Geno Smith is not going to be the franchise quarterback.
The main thing that came out was the Titans were talking with the Giants to trade for Cam Ward during the combine. It was like a first-round pick and a second, but that price eventually went up to, all right, give us 2 first-round picks and like your third. And now it was reported to be 3 first-round picks, which the Giants were like, all right, 2 years in a row the Giants have gotten screwed over trading up for that pick. So I think they're content with taking Travis Hunter here.
I think that's what it is. It's that this quarterback class is not as rich as it's being posed as. And that we see this every year through the combine is they post great numbers when they have the pads off and everything. And all of a sudden we're looking at a quarterback that didn't have as much value coming in, now has even more value because he ran around in his underwear faster than everybody else. So when we look at this, another interesting team to me is the Steelers at 21. And I'll pose this to you. The Steelers at 21, it's been talked about that they could take Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart. I've also seen the Giants trading down with the Steelers trading up. Just absolutely bogus things that could happen in this draft. Jalen Milroe met with Mike Tomlin for a dinner, and it seemed to have went well. So do we think it's worth spending a first round?
There's absolutely no way they spent a first-round pick on Milroe based off of everything in college. He wasn't a winner. That's the main thing you got to look at. He wasn't a winner, and he is one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in college football last year. And that's the main part. I'm like, oh, the Steelers are built a winning organization. That's what we're known for, going 9-8, whatever, a winning record. But he proved he can't even do that at Alabama, the best team in the nation, basically.
There's a ceiling with him. I mean, it's that he's inaccurate, and you have two wide receivers that they're tough and they're gritty in George Pickens and DK Metcalf, but they don't bring a lot of separation, which is what you need for a rookie quarterback. So when we look at the situation, yes, he would bring the toughness to that team, and it would fit that Steelers mold. But I agree with you. It's the exact take of you don't spend a first rounder. You don't spend a first rounder on a quarterback that is projected to already be in that second round. You don't jump the gun on that.
No, he's extremely developmental, but even at this point, we had Justin Fields. If you're going to develop a fast, mobile quarterback, he already was familiar with the system last year. We traded for a 6th-round pick. That's nothing. Resign. I know the Jets offered him an egregious amount of money, but we have the cap space to kind of be like, all right, we can fake this deal, put a couple of Boyd years in there.
I don't know if I agree with that because I have the Ohio State quarterback take of anyone from Ohio State is not going to be good. I still will stick with that with C.J. Stroud. So as far as the Ohio State quarterback, let's slow our roll and I could take a different guy who's elusive in the pocket and maybe a little inaccurate, and he's from another college because it at least makes me feel better. Another one I'm going to point at is the Cowboys at 12. It's interesting with them because they could take Ashton Genty. I think it falls right into their hands. I don't see a lot of teams on the board that are going to be willing to spend for a running back that high. What do we think?
The Chicago would be the only one that I see where it's jump in there, get a running back, Caleb Williams, best supporting cast in the league. But DeAndre Swift, really inefficient runner, but with that improved offensive line, DeAndre Swift could be more than capable. He proved that on the Eagles and on the Lions.
It'll be a question of how willing are they to support Caleb, because I think that would be way over the top of you're really trying to push it and you're really trying to get all those playmakers in. I don't think he really needs that. Let's move into our next topic. We're going to talk about the young rosters in the NBA. I have listed here the Rockets, Grizzlies, Thunder, and Pistons as the young rosters that could make a story in the NBA playoffs. But what team for you is the best fit to make a run?
So looking at these teams, when you hear that the Pistons are doing well and you're looking at their records this year, it's kind of shocking to everybody, but that is not the team I want to focus on with these stories here. I have two potential options here. If the Grizzlies have to play the Lakers, and I suspect they'll be out first round, because that's just where the seeding ends up there. It's not very well for them if they stay where they are right now. But if they were to beat the Lakers, imagine that Cinderella story right there. That would be the biggest Cinderella story to come out of the playoffs if the Grizzlies beat the Lakers, but I just don't see that happening. So I say the most likely story will be about the Thunder, who just beat the Grizzlies 125-104. And they are the number 1 seed. This young team is really able to stay up. And their playoff story could go one of two ways here. If they lose, they'll be back better next year. If you're looking at the projections through OKC, the past 4 seasons for them, they just keep getting better and better and better. So this will definitely be a conversation that is had about the Thunder, no matter where they get out in this tournament. But it's really important to look at. And also, here, if they win, this will be the team's 2nd championship ever. So this is really important for them. This is really important for the Thunder themselves. And SGA is already in this MVP conversation, but that's where it kind of gets a little sticky. If the Thunder loses, is SGA the MVP for this team? And you have to think, is he really doing as much as he can to boost up this team? I say no matter what happens in the postseason for the Thunder, SGA is very, very influential for this MVP caliber. And this young team is really someone to look out for. And there's a lot of different stories that can formulate around them. But I say a lot of talk in the postseason will be just saying they will be better and back next year.
I find it funny that you said the Grizzlies. They just fired their head coach when they're 4th in the West. I feel like there's something going on in that locker room where, you're winning games, but there's more going on that meets the eye.
Yeah.
And if that's happening, chemistry is the most important thing in the playoffs. If you don't have that chemistry, especially when now you don't have a coach, that's going to be completely disrupt anything Lakers in 5.
Lakers in 5.
I love your takes. I'm in the same line that you are with thinking about these teams, is that if the Grizzlies could make a Cinderella story happen, they would be the team to do it. As far as Triple J is having a all NBA caliber year. And could you imagine this team if they had Ja Morant right now?
Yes.
I mean, goodness gracious, this team looks as good as they could be right now. And if they had Ja Morant, maybe even better. And if they get matched up with a team like the Lakers, we can't be quick to say that the Lakers are going to win that series. The Lakers have been up and down recently, and I understand that's matchups with the Bulls. But the Lakers are an interesting team because they are way older than the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are going to have this youth against them. And when we talk about the Thunder as well, the Thunder look high and above the best team in the NBA right now. And the only second team you would put there is the Celtics. You would put the Celtics there because they're also young. They just had a championship, and they're really the team that contends the most with the Thunder. But the Celtics are in the Eastern Conference, and the Thunder are in the West. And far and out, the Thunder should win this conference.
Yes.
It really shouldn't come down to anything close to them not winning this conference. There's other teams that are iffy, like maybe the Clippers, but because they have that old experience, and the Lakers who have the experience. But as far as these other teams go, I really can't see a scenario where the Thunder don't come out of the West.
I fully agree there. And we're just seeing, like, it's getting older in the West. LeBron's old. Like, we have to face the fact, like, he isn't as good as he used to be. And all these other teams are just older, so you could say, oh, yeah, they're more experienced on the court, but you need the defense, you need the speed, you need the stamina, you need the agility, and these younger teams are really starting to bring it, especially as we're gearing up toward the postseason, and it's just being neck and neck right there.
That's the thing you fail to realize, though. The younger you are, the more inexperienced you are.
Yes.
And like I said this in previous episodes, experience is the most important thing you can have. The Thunder have proven multiple times they were young when they made the finals last. And they were young, and guess what? They didn't get it done. I think they need a couple more years. They need more reps in there before they go anything.
I think the Clippers have a great path as far as if they're experienced, they should be able to win these games. I understand they have James Harden on their team, but having Kawhi Leonard is a little different. And the Clippers have looked great recently, just having that close matchup against the Thunder. They could get matched up with, if they're the 7 seed, the Rockets, and the 8 seed, the Thunder. They could have a first-round win, and we don't even see it. And they could have some sort of run. But as far as a young roster goes, the Thunder are the best team to come out of that conference if there's going to be any.
I fully agree.
Let's move to our commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
My name is Abby Blancato, and I'm an anchor for Royal Studios. Right now, behind the set of the show, you are watching The Standings. You can catch me on Royals Weekly every Friday, where we cover all things University of Scranton. From campus clubs, events, and sports news, you'll get everything you need. Until then, back to The Standings.
Welcome back from the break. Happy opening day to you both. It was yesterday, and we got to see all of these amazing teams play. Baseball is back. It is exciting. We're going to be able to talk about it for at least the rest of the semester, and hopefully a little bit next semester as well. Right when we get back, it'll be playoff time, which is super exciting. So what team most impressed you on opening day?
What team most impressed me was the Mets, in the worst way possible. So I'm impressed that the Mets just paid Juan Soto $765 million to get a walk, a strikeout, and a single. Why? Why would you pay him that much just for that to be your opening day? And there's been so much buzz with this Mets team. They're like, Soto's going to boost it up. Lindor's going to boost it up. We have Pete Alonso. Like, this is a great synergy. Everything is going to go our way this season for the Mets. And day one, you're already disappointed. This sounds exactly like a regular Mets season already. The fact that they hit it day one, I'm really impressed. And going back into spring training here, the Mets cannot beat the Astros for the life of them. They did not beat them a single time. So, looks like they can't do it in the regular season either.
And Clay Holmes, a wonderful previous Yankee that the Mets so love to pick up, struggled immensely. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the Yankees, they were fantastic against the Brewers. Carlos Rodon, Cy Young candidate, lit them up. They could not hit a single thing, unless that count the second inning home run, but whatever. But in terms of that, it's a bittersweet ending with Devin Williams coming in as the closer and shutting out, getting the first save in his Yankees career. it's just wonderful. And Austin Wells, first catcher MLB history since like 1900, hit a home run opening day. Love it. But the controversial thing about that is 1 out of 30 ballparks, it's a home run in. So I'm going to ask, should MLB constrict stricter regulations on field size?
Well, that's a great question. And with it being New York and that stadium being so iconic, I don't know if you could do that, but I have said that for years, that they need to make that stadium bigger because there are just so many home runs that get hit there. My team that I'm going to talk about, I'm also going to bounce off a little bit, the Astros and Mets. So Jose Altuve, who has played second base his whole career, now moves to left field. He moves to left field, and his first catch is him cutting off the center fielder. It looks so dangerous, but he made the catch, made his first catch in left field, and he played a great game. The Astros had a great game against the Mets. I'm not sure what the Mets are doing, but it's got to be a great time to be a Yankees fan. It's got to be great to see Soto strike out to end the game. It is absolutely tragic if you're a Mets fan. And if you're a Yankees fan, it's got to be a great opening day. I'm going to talk about another great opening day, the Phillies. My team, the Phillies, they went to extras with the Nationals. So already, as a Phillies fan, when your bullpen comes out and as a Phillies fan, I will tell you that when our bullpen comes out, my heart goes about a million miles a minute. And the bullpen came out and actually performed. And we wrapped it up in the 10th inning. Schwarber hit a home run. Harper hit a home run. And Romuto driving in 2 runs. And then also we had Alec Boehm, who drove in 2 runs as well. It was a great hitting day for the team. And that's what I want to see out of this offense. You're getting to a point where you have Harper, Castellanos, Realmuto, and I'm missing one, Schwarber, who they are all getting older and older as this goes on. So it might be like a last-ditch year for them to make the championship and get themselves a World Series title.
And that's the main thing with the Phillies, the Orioles, and the Mets. If they are not raking in hits, their bullpen is not that good. I mean, I know the Phillies have Zach Wheeler and all, but who do the Mets have?
Some guy I went to high school with.
It's not a lot. And when we look at baseball as a whole, and obviously opening day is just one game. It's one of the 162, I believe, games that are in the season. So it's just one game, and we can't really evaluate it too much. But I will say, with something like the Phillies getting hits and the Yankees having a great game like they did, it's a very good sign of what's to come for the season. And I have to say, I am really impressed that the Astros were able to make this move with Altuve, because I don't think it's going to get talked enough on shows about how he's switched his position from infield to outfield.
Yeah.
I mean, you have different gloves for that type of stuff. So for him to switch positions, and it's not a dangerous position to be in, if he can just keep his hitting up and be part of that team, the Astros could be scary again.
And one game I do want to highlight again here, you touched on them really, really, really briefly, the Orioles, Baltimore. Look at you go. It was Homer City in Baltimore, 12-2, the only game that had over 10 runs there. And good job, Tyler O'Neill. Straight 6 opening days with a home run. That's a great stat to have. It must feel great every single year, but now the pressure's on. You got to keep that up. Good luck with that. But during the spring season, the Blue Jays did not do terribly, and they beat the Orioles once in the middle of March, too. So this game was really up in the air as to who was going to win this one. But to lose by this much on opening day is kind of impressive, because the Orioles had such an inconsistent spring training. They were losing, they were winning. You never really knew what was going to go on there. And it seems like they really got their act together for opening day, so we'll see if they continue that momentum going into the season.
And this Oriole lineup was without Gunnar, which is their best hitter on the team by far. I don't think there's any debate about that, which is a little scary for that offense.
Yeah.
But this also kind of like for Guerrero now. You just got blown up by the Orioles. Now, up that offer if you want to get paid. If you want to stay at the Blue Jays, might need to pay him a little bit more money now. If this team can't compete.
That's very interesting, and we'll have to see what happens. We're going to move into our next topic, though, where we talk about the Capitals and Alex Ovechkin. My question to both of you is, how good are the Capitals really? And if they win another cup, what does this do for Ovechkin's legacy? Where does he rank among the all-time greats?
So, obviously, the Capitals are first in the Metropolitan Division. Their record is 47, 16, and 9. This is a really good team, and they made incredible moves in the offseason that boosted them up this season. Last season, you were like, are the Capitals really doing what they're supposed to be doing? The offseason, they took it so seriously, and they were ready to compete this year. And as for Ovechkin, when we're talking about top players already, if you go to somebody and say, who are the top 3 NHL players? You know what they're going to say: Wayne Gretzky, Sidney Crosby, and Alex Ovechkin. Obviously, already. So, he's just a few goals away from beating Gretzky's scoring record. That's so impressive. And he has been in this conversation already with this record on the rise, another Stanley Cup. He's already boosted up there. He's going to stay in this conversation for a while. And since this team is so developed, I see some great potential coming with them.
I think you forgot to mention Mario Lemieux on that list of top players, but in terms of what this does for Ovechkin, I think the scoring record impacts his legacy more than another cup does.
I agree.
Becoming the greatest scorer in NHL history is the most impactful thing ever. It's like LeBron now, how he has the scoring history. Like, who's going to break this? This is one of these unbreakable records that everybody says, and once eventually broken, like, you're crowned the next thing for the next decade. This is beyond, like, he's a top 5 player of all time as soon as that record's broken.
Yeah.
I think what it will do is it will signify that Alex Ovechkin is the second greatest goal scorer of all time. I don't know if he passes Gretzky when he gets that record. I think that Gretzky did it obviously in a shorter amount of time, and Ovechkin's career has kind of been kind of longed out now, but I think it places him with kind of that Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr. I don't know if it's top 3 of all time. I do agree with Lemieux being in there. I think it's with Gordie Howe, Bobby Orr. It's kind of there. But don't be fooled. This offense this year is electric for them, and it is at the helm of Alex Ovechkin. So we have to look at this as a real contender. But it does help as well this year that the Bruins and Rangers really don't have it together, wouldn't we think?
No, I have to agree. I mean, Bruins, yet again, we talked about the Bruins, how it's just a disaster up in Boston, and I love to see that. But I also hate to see the Capitals doing good as a Penguins fan. But we're not talking about Crosby broke Gretzky's point-per-game record this year as well, which I'm going to boost Crosby up a little bit still over Ovechkin because of those 3 cups.
I think you have to, and that's why I asked the question of would the Stanley Cup boost him more, because then it's 3-2 and you're still there, but you still haven't won as much. But if this team, say they roll through the playoffs and they're by far the best team, does that change the scenario for you at all?
If Ovi is the leading force behind it, I think that is the main thing where the Capitals are known to struggle in the postseason, where it's just objectively hilarious to me. But if Ovi's the leader in that, I can listen to your argument.
I think a big thing for them this year is Logan Thompson, who has come onto the scene as one of the best goalies in hockey, posting top 5 in save percentage and win-loss record. He has been great for the team this year, and I think he would be the key to them, other than that offense, of course, that I mentioned. He would be the key on that other side of, can they really get over that hump? And they already secured their playoff spot, unlike the other teams. So they can sit back and relax right now.
And you shouldn't. And I think that's the main thing. Like we said, momentum. That is the most important thing going into a series. Maybe football, it's a little different. It's one game. Momentum in a series, that is the most important thing you can have.
I totally agree. And we're moving to our last topic. We have a bonus topic. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is in the news again. What team needs a QB that Aaron Rodgers could be placed on, and it automatically makes them a contender? So this is different than how we phrased these questions before, because now we don't know where he's going to go. We will never know where he's going to go. We're phrasing it as, if you picked a team that needed a quarterback right now, and that's the thing, they need a quarterback, what would it be?
What I love about Aaron Rodgers is he goes, I hate it when people talk about me, but your name is always in the news. Always, nobody can get your name out of their mouth. And he's like, I want to be secretive. I don't want people to talk about me. You are a celebrity. You are a celebrity. People are going to talk about you. You have to get used to it. And it's time for you to make this less about you and more about the game. So I don't really know necessarily where I would put Aaron Rodgers to really make a team a contender, because I am ready for him to just retire. I am sick of hearing your name, and it is time for you to go. Like I've said before, just start coaching somebody young, even though you don't want to do that, if you want to keep this paycheck coming in, go, like, teach a young quarterback. Go to the Steelers, and they'll draft somebody young. Go teach that guy whatever you need to teach him, and then go. Be happy with your life and go into your cave, and nobody will talk about you ever again. Just make a decision soon, and everything will be fine.
I'm glad that you touched on the Steelers. We already talked about him going to the Steelers. That's the number one thing. But I'm going to be a little controversial. The Jets. Why in the world would you get rid of him? He is way better than Justin Fields. I don't think there's any argument about that. And the Jets' decline started after you fired a top 5 coach, at least in defensive-wise. It still makes no sense. Just pay him out. He's going to retire. That contract's going to disappear. And now you're paying it off this year, and you're paying for it right now.
And it's an old quarterback, and we talked about the weapons that he had, he would have with the Steelers in Pickens and Metcalf, who aren't going to get off of their defenders. They're not going to have a lot of separation. So for an aging quarterback, not a very good situation to be in. And with the Jets, like you mentioned, he had Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, guys who could get off their defenders and get wide open. And I think he paired well with Garrett Wilson. He was having a late season stretch where he was good. But one of these takes that I have is with the Niners. The Niners, and I said it weeks ago. And then Colin Cowherd went on air on live television and stole my take. He stole my take. I swear to God, he definitely watched the standings. I don't know. But he went on national television and said, oh, well, Brock Purdy's in this gap year, and Aaron Rodgers could fill that and be with Kyle Shanahan, and they could really boost their offense. That's the exact take that I had, but I said they should get Matthew Stafford first if he's available. Now Matthew Stafford's not available. Aaron Rodgers is still available on that market. If you want to win this division, I think you stick with Brock Purdy. But if you're Aaron Rodgers and I was going to place you on a team to be a contender, I would place you with Kyle Shanahan if it were anybody. And as far as that goes, there's just a clear ceiling with Aaron Rodgers. Is if he's there, Brock Purdy has more potential than we've seen. He's gotten to the Super Bowl, and we should see more from him going into these next seasons. But with Aaron Rodgers, there's a certain ceiling you're going to reach, and I just can't stand that. And I have to say, Morgan, you should have had an opening monologue for the Mets and this, because there is some pent-up emotion.
I have very, very strong opinions about the Mets. I'm such a big Mets fan, and here we go. Every single year is exactly the same. Aaron Rodgers, I want to have a conversation with you so bad. I need to crack you open. I want to sit here and interview you and wonder what is going on in your head, because I'm so confused. Who are you?
And what about the Bucks as well with Damian Lillard? It's just
gosh.
it's not a good week for you,
No.
and I really feel for you in this. And it is so tragic that we have to talk about Aaron Rodgers right now to close out the episode. But he's hit the news cycle so much that it feels like it would be a dishonor to not.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what he wants. I mean, you covered that. That's exactly what Aaron Rodgers wants. Is he wants you to think that he doesn't want to be in the news or nothing, but he absolutely wants to be in the news. And it's actually crazy because Jerry Jones never said he didn't want to be in the news. So it's even more dishonorable to go on and say that you don't want to be in the news. You absolutely do want to be in the news, and you know exactly what you're doing.
You go on the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday as well.
Like,
You go on national media every week and talk about it, even when your team is losing. Like, take a couple weeks break off the Pat McAfee show. Don't say it's all sunshine and rainbows. But in terms of this, Morgan, you might need to go on a darkness retreat with him.
I would love to go on a darkness retreat with Aaron Rodgers. If you are listening right now, I will go for free. I will volunteer my time, and I will crack you open because I need to know what you're up to.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap up the show. That's it for the standings.
Thank you for watching the standings.
Make sure to check out Royals Weekly and Scranton Scope.
Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed.
Tune in next time.